Hi all, this is Ariel. This is the tutorial for the latest version of the Hybrid 3 program. You need to download the program, run the installer, and when you do, it will create a directory on your C drive called Hybrid 3. Inside this directory, you'll see three subfolders and then the three actual programs that are included with this package. In the Files folder, you will see a series of text files in INI. These are the INI is where the user settings and stuff is stored when you exit the program. The sets period text, this is where your the lines generated will be stored, and then there's a temp text, which this file is just used to pass data from different aspects within the program. You'll also see a file called dump text and dump CSV. Both of these files contain the same data. The dump CSV is for Excel or OpenOffice programmers if they want to work on some kind of analysis tool using those options. The dump text is the same exact thing as the CVS, except for it's not comma, separated values. This file, we see the actual set drawn. We see its even and odd properties, and then its low-high properties. You can see that 0, 1, 4 is the even, odd, even, and then all three digits are low. And then over here is the hybrid code, the 002. You can see that it's even, 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 and it has a low, low, high. The hybrid code has a range of 0 to 3, so 0, 1 would be low digits, and 1, 2 would be high. So you need to be aware of that, because over here, this one uses the actual set, and you can see that it's ranged from 0 to 9. These files are generated every time the Hcode tool is opened, and I'll get into that a little more as we get along. In this video, I'm going to go through all aspects of the program for those that are first-time users. Some of the people that have used the program in the past, they can skip ahead in the video. One thing that I want to mention before you skip ahead, which is basically the only change made to this, is the old HC tool now has both the left and right click option. The if you left click, it will open up the Hcodes tool. Now this particular tool here, I'll get into that in greater detail in the second part of this video. But the two files that I mentioned, the dump CVS and the dump text, are regenerated each time that this particular option is open. And then the right click option opens up the new RSP, it's a rogue straight pair filtering tool. Okay, with that said, those that are already familiar with this part of the program, they can jump ahead in the video and then see the changes that I've made to the Hcode tool. The first thing you need to do whenever you download and install the program to prepare for playing is the first thing you need to do is go into your database. Now you have a games folder inside of the C drive hybrid 3 folder. You'll have games, and if you'll notice that all the games are abbreviated by state. This particular list, I think, has all US games plus Canada plus a few extras. One thing that I would like to mention is that I know there's a South Africa database in here, while all the other databases I think are updated till February 14th of 2019. The South African database is probably not. So if you're a South African user, then you need to use your existing file. You can copy it somewhere before you install this particular version. Now I'm in Missouri, so I'll just go down and find the abbreviation for Missouri. Click that, and that will load my Missouri database. Now you can see here that's in the games, the MO period text is the file that I've loaded, and then it'll show the game last updated, which is 014, and then its hybrid code 002. Now the first, you can view the actual database by clicking on the database button, and you can see that where the database is actually updated to. At the time of this video, I'm one game out, so I need to update my database. And to update the database, the first thing you need to do, this date will always be the date of the last game that has been updated, but I need to go to the 15th, and to change the date, just hover the mouse over the particular value and then left or right click. Left click increases, right click decreases. And you can do that for any of the 3 date values here. The next thing to do is to enter the 3 digits that were drawn in your game. My midday game today was a 571. And then once you get the date and these 3 numbers, your 3 digits in, click save. It'll update the database and then reset to, the thing. Now, if I had more than one draw to enter in, I would just go ahead and enter in the next one. You need to put these in the order in which they were drawn. Once your database is fully updated, just click close. You can always go in and click the database, and you can see that the one that I just updated has been entered and that everything is correct, so I'm good to go. Now, if you happen to make a mistake here, you can edit the database through Notepad through the database option. Just make sure that you maintain this format and that all your lines look similar. Okay, anytime you update or make any changes to this, and this only applies to the update, any changes made to the database through Notepad, you would click File, Save, and then go ahead and exit that. And then, like I said, anytime you make an edit to the database through Notepad, you always need to click the Reload button. Okay, what that does is takes into account any edits that you made, manually through the text thing. When you update using the regular update option, you don't need to click the reload, although sometimes I usually do that just before I begin my setup. Okay, the next button is the run button, and you would run after you've gotten your H code. To get your H code, you would use the HC tool for analysis, or use your own program using one of the 2 dump programs or dump files. Okay, the view button here, this will allow you to view any sets that are in your draw file that you've generated. And then the HC and SP tool I'll get into in just a second. And then, of course, the exit button. Another thing that you need to be aware of, that let's say that you've got your HC and RSP tool opened up, you need to close those before you do an update, because each time they're opened, they generate the latest information from the database. So always be aware of that. Before you update, always close these tools out. Okay, now what I'm going to do here to get into the Hybrid 3 program, what it is and what it does, is I'm gonna do an after the fact setting. Now we can see that in my last game the digits 571 were drawn, and it equals hybrid code 233. Now, the idea of the thing would be to put the correct hybrid code into the 3 digits here, and you do that again by hovering the mouse over the box, and then either left or right click to change the value. Now this was a 233, and let's assume that I done my analysis and this is the code I came up with. I would come back to this program, enter those 3 digits in there, and then click run. A little message will come up there saying that it's running. It doesn't take very long, and if we view those, we'll see that around 99% of the time you're going to end up with 16 lines, but within those 16 lines you will always have a straight hit. Now we can see the 233 generated 571, and if we look through this list, we can see our 571. There's our pick 3 straight. Now, around 99% of the time, you're going to get 16 lines returned from every H code. There will be times when you get fewer than that, and that's just a product of the actual H code. Sometimes there's just not 16 lines within the range that this will generate. Now it's we need to move on to the H code analysis, and there's another program that does that. When you left click the HCSP button, when you left click it, it'll bring up the H codes tool. And what I'll get into here is how to use this. As you can see, there are 64 H codes that are possible. So, you know, the user's responsibility is to try to select the H code that will show in, you know, the next game. The H codes are all color coded by their, you know, their last hit, and we can see that all the ones that are yellow have hit between the last and, you know, within the last 30 games from 1 to 30. Everything that's highlighted in blue fell in 31 to 60. Green is 61 to 90. The pink is 90 to 120. And then the red are all H codes that are out greater than 120 games. So you can see that there's several of these. Now you have two different options. You can right click on any of these and you can see the code. It's current games out. Its minimum skip is 1, maximum skip is 277, and its total hits is 44. You can see down here there's 5 or 6 lines, 6 or 7, whatever, lines of either dashes or asterisks, and asterisk indicates where it showed last, and we can see there was 50 games out, or 58 games out, so we have 58 dashes, and then it hit on the 50, I guess would be the 59th game. And this data is read from left to right, then left to right, left and right. This is kind of just one continuous string broken down, and you can see I think there's something like 70 in each line, so 70 times however many lines is the number of games you can see the information for. You can also, a new thing, you can left click on this and you can actually see the sets and where it'll highlight where it ran in. Now, if you notice, the first 4 values here are all the triples, the zeros, 1s, 2, and 3s. But when you get over into these, here we have a 3-way with a pair of zeros and a 1. Now, it doesn't matter which one of those I click on, it will show the same data, because this data down here that's highlighted is representative of these 3 values here. So, you know, it doesn't matter if you're on the same type of digit makeup. Here we have 2 zeros and a 2, 2 zeros and a 2, 2 zeros on a 2. So any one of those will get you the same data. The same way here, these are the 6 ways for 1, 2, and 3 different digits. It will highlight, any one you click on here will highlight all of them. You just need to be aware of that, because sometimes you'll click the data and it doesn't seem to change. That's because you're looking at the same 3 digits. So, you know, you need to be aware of that. Okay, the clear button will clear it. The first option here is the split option. This is some games draw up to 4 times a day, and that's the limit that I've set on this. You can select to play either just the first game of the day, the second, the third, the fourth, or you can play all combined. If I set this to 1, then it updates all the data, recalculates the data, and now we're just looking at the data for my midday draws. I normally just play with the combined, but for those that want to, you know, separate the draws, they've got that option. Okay, the second option here is the digits, and what this shows is the non-positional digit hits. This is the total times that 0 has appeared in an H code. Now, all this data pertains to the H code, not to the actual digits that are drawn. Something I missed here in the quick counts, we can see that there's 23 H codes have hit in the last 30 games. There's 15 that have fallen within the 31 to 60, 14 within the 61 to 90, etc. And then the value out here to the side is a percentage, which I should have capped that off at 2 digits, but it shows 3 instead of rounding. It just shows 3 digits past the percent or past the decimal. But anyway, you can see the total times that 0 is hit. This is non-positional, so it could have hit as the first, second, or third digit. But you can kind of use this to tell whether or not you should include a 0 in your H code, or a 1, or a 2, or a 3. Okay, the single, double, triples, this will tell you the number of games that hit singles are 3 different digits, such as 1, 2, 3. A double has a pair of digits plus another digit, and then a triple is all 3 same digits, such as 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3. The mirror digits, again, now this option here has both the left and right click. The left click shows you the positional mirror digits, and this is when a digit, since we're working with 0, 1, 2, and 3, a mirror digit would just be the reverse of that. A 0 would become a 3, a 1, a 2, a 2, a 1, and a 3, a 0. If you right click on this, it tells you your total mirror digits that showed within a game. So we can see that there were 1,054 that had no mirror digits. Its average, its games out, and its maximum skip. We can see here, that 1 is hit 1,045, etc., etc., 2, 3. So you can go through and decide, looking at the, whatever value showed in the last game, whether or not it will mirror or not. Now, if we look at, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to open up the dump text. Now, if we look at this, this would probably be one of the best ways. But see, we usually will always have at least one digit that repeats somewhere in the next set. A lot of times you will see 2 digits. Occasionally you won't have any. But whenever I see something like this, a lot of times if it skips one and goes to the next one, I look 2 games back. Here's a 0, 3, 2, and then we had a 3 and a 2, one after. This seems to, be happen quite often, so that kind of give you a little bit of a clue as to what to play. Like here we had a pair of 1s, we had a pair of 1s. Here we just had 1 digit that repeated, etc., etc. But a lot of the times you'll see, 2 digits from the previous game, go from one game to the next. Here we had a 1, 2, a 1, 2, and then, etc., etc. But, I think most people understand that was kind of the basis behind this, thinking that, it might be easier to pick an H code, and then try to take 2 digits from the last game and place them in the new H code for the current draw, and then, just work this down. But anyway, there's a number of tools here to kind of help you decide what to play. We have the positional repeat digits. Now this is where a digit showed from game to game in the same position. You can either have 1, 2, or 3. I should have included 0, but what I did was I put these little red indicator marks. Everywhere you see a red, it means that none of the digits repeated in the same position game to game. So, okay, I think that's pretty evident. Okay, you can also right click the total repeat digits, and here you can see the count for 0. You can kind of see the data where none of the digits repeated. You can see the times that 1 digit repeated, 2 digits repeated, or 3 digits repeated game to game. You can see 1 and 2 are the 2 highest values that show overall. So you need to consider that when you're doing your workout to find your H code, because a lot of times you're going to have 1, and about the same amount of times you're going to have 2 digits that repeat. But this allows you to track the how often they hit. Again, the dash means that it didn't show, and an asterisk means the game where it did. So you can see that either one of these values has a fairly high hit rate. Okay, the next one is the one-off, and what this means is, you can see this by position for 1, 2, or 3. Will the value in the that shows next by position, will it be one off from the previous game? Now, if it's a 1, I need to make sure that you understand this. If it's a 1, it could either be a 0 or a 2. But if it's a 3, it could either, one off could either be a 2 or 0. Because, we have our 3 digits and 3's the highest. So one off from a 3 could also roll around and equal 0. So you need to be aware of that. And that's the same. But you can see, the one off. If you analyze this data plus the repeat plus the mirrors, a lot of times you can come up with a pretty good choice as to what to play. Now the QStats option, this has changed. This has both the left and right click option. If you left click on it, you get a different graphic. Here we have, we can see that it starts out with 0, 0. You can see all the places where 0, 0, showed. And then this is the front pair. And you can see it for 1s, for 2s, 3s. You can see it for all. I think there's 16 different patterns that I have listed here. And you can, it's the same for the front pair, back pair, and end pairs. You can just, click on any value and you can see. I don't know how much help this will be, but it's there. The same way for the first digit. Now, what this does is this. Even though these are color coded the same as what these values up here, they don't mean the same thing. So for instance, any value that is highlighted in yellow will have a 0 as the first digit. So any of these yellows you look at, it'll be a 0. If it's a 1, it'll be blue. If it's a 2, it'll be green. And if it's a 3, it will be red. And so if we go to the second digit, now it's the same color code, but we're looking at the second digit. The second digit will be a 0. The 1s will be blue, the 2s will be green, and the 3s will be, red. But it's the same for the first, second, third digit. The high, low, all of the high numbers are highlighted in red. The low digits are highlighted in blue. The odd, even, the blue is the even, and the red is the odd. Okay, the sums, you can select any sum value, and it will highlight the where that particular sum fell in. You can see that 4, 5, and 6 are the highest hitters. I don't know. Again, I don't really use sums, but it's there. And then you also, on the right click option on the thing, then this reverts back to the original type of analysis. It shows the hit miss and the string data. It shows you the pair, the number of hits, the average, the games out, and the maximum skip. This, again, you can select, whichever value by clicking any of the boxes and then click exit. It's the same way for the, the first, second, third digits. You can see that same data. The high-low is listed, position 1 high, position 1 low, position 2, etc., etc. This was what the original value was. Odd evens are the same. And then the sum values, again, it's the same layout. Both of them display basically the same value, but they're just presented in a different format. Okay, the list view, this has changed from what it was previously. The original version, you just came up where you selected the pair, then it would just highlight that pair. Then you had to kind of exit, go back, select another pair. Now you can just scroll through them. And what this will do is, like with 2 here, it'll show you every game that has a 2 in it. You can look for 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, etc., etc. I don't think it does now. I was thinking I added a right click to that, but it doesn't. And then of course the clear button just clears it, but the user's responsibility is to try to come up with, what the next H code will be. Once you've gotten your H code, then you would come and enter it in here. The next thing would be to click run, generate the sets, you can view them. Like I said, around 99% of the time it's going to generate 16 lines. There will be times when it generates fewer. Okay, the next option that we'll go into is the RSP filter. And I've already got it open, so I'm just going to pull it back up here. The first thing you probably need to do is set the reset button so that it zeroes all these out to the wild position, and a W indicates that it can be a 0 or a 1. You can change it where it has to be a 0, and a 0 is effectively means that it's blocked. A 1 means that it has to show. Now again, because I'm doing an after fact, I've got setup. I've got 16 sets generated from my hybrid code. From this 233, it generated 16 lines. The idea of this tool, or what this tool does, is give you the option to try to reduce those down by predicting whether this value will be a 0 or a 1. If you're unsure what it would be, then it would be best just to set it to W for wild. Now, to analyze this data, you would click one of these buttons up here at the top. They're indicated by A through K. There's 11 of them, and each one indicates a specific pair. And then it'll filter the sets. Now, in the hybrid 3, you're only using the rogue digits 1, 3, and 5. But this particular tool, when it filters, it uses all 5 of the rogues for a pick 3. The idea behind this would be you have several options, but let's say that we're on position A, and let's say we can't really do a real analysis here because it's already been updated. But the idea would be to look at the spacing, the gaps, the counts. Like the 80% chance that the next one will be a 0, and then there's a 19% chance that it would be a 1. Now you can see here that in the total amount of games, I don't know exactly how many games I have in my database, but 579 games it was a 1, where 2,420 it was a 0. But that you can't really just go by that to get it, but you can kind of guess around and see. But that's the reason for the bias search tool. Now what this does is you can move your mouse anywhere on this line and left click to add a digit. Now what this is doing is it goes through the entire game history. This only shows maybe 100 games or 80 or something like that, but it actually goes through this entire string of I think I've got about 3,000 games in my database, so it's going through the entire string, and every time it finds a 1, the highlighted value, it will record what value hit in the next game. So you can see the last time a 1 hit, it was a 0 in the next game. The game before that, when a 1 hit, a 1 followed it. Now you can see that the bias result is that information. So we can see the last game time a 1 was drawn, it was a 0. The game before that, it was a 1, and then there was a couple zeros and a 1, couple zeros, and 1, 1, 1. But anyway, you can add as many digits to the search pattern that you want to search and see what the results are. And then hopefully from this information you can decide, should I play this as a 0 or a 1. And again, we're doing an after the fact setup here, so let's say I just put a 1 in here. I can come down and I can hit run, and something's not right. Let me pause this for a second. Okay, I done what I warned in the earlier one to do, and I had this program open before I updated, and I didn't close these out first, so the data wasn't updated. But anyway, let's resume. Okay, now the idea would be to try to set these values, go through them one at a time. Just look at the main data, look how the program's running. Let's say that we thought this one was going to be a 0. Okay, let's run it, and we can see that that had no filtering effect on it whatsoever. We could go to B, we could analyze this. Let's say that we thought it was going to be a 0. We could run it. Still again, there was no values changed here. Let's go over to F. Let's say that I'm just skipping around here. Let's run it again. We still got no change. This is unusual. Usually, okay, there we finally found one. Okay, but it reduced the 16 down to 12, but it hasn't saved them yet. Okay, now if I was through with my analysis, I'd reduce down to what I wanted to reduce to. Say 12 lines, I was okay with playing that many. Then I would save those, close it, and if we view those, now we can see we only have 12 lines, and the actual set was a 571, and we can see there's our straight. A lot of times, though, why this is, kind of unusual here for the amount of, reduction that we got. Normally, time I go through set 2 or 3 of these, I'm usually down to maybe 5 sets. So, but you can come back in and after I save, now you can see we're 12. So now we're gonna let's say that I decided that this one here should be a 1. And let's say I run that again. Now you can see that it's reduced the 12 down to 6. Let's say that still 6 is too many to play, and this is kind of a progressive type of filtering. So you can just keep filtering until you get down to the amount that you want to play. So this particular, now we know that a bunch of these had no effect whatsoever on the draw. So usually when I set something and it doesn't have any effect on the sets, the reduction, then I'll usually just go back to set it to a W and just use the ones that actually affected the totals. So if I run it again here, you can see even with all these, we've got a 1 set here, 0 here, 0 here, and then everything else is wild, and you can see that it reduced down to 5. I'll go ahead and click save, close. Again, we're looking for the 571. If we view those, we can see that we've reduced from 16 down to 5 lines, and we've still got our pick 3 straight. And I'll do this with the 16 again. And notice we've just got a 1 set here, 0 here, and a 0 here. Run it, and we can see that it took the 16 down to 6. I'm going to see what it would do if you don't have that one in there. Okay, so that just reduced one particular line. Let me set a 0 there. But you can, just go through. If I set 2 of these to 1, probably going to reduce down to, there we are, we're down to 3 sets. So the 1 value, anything you can set to 1 will have the most reduction power, but the ones are also the hardest ones to hit. So the idea is not to save until you've kind of gone through and pick the ones that you're most sure about, then run it, see what it reduces to, and once you get to the level that you want to play, then you're done. Just click save and close it. Now there is another option here. It's called random, but what it does is it will still generate every set within, because we're only dealing with 1,000 lines, and this is really quick. But let's say that I just hit the random button, and it'll say, now this is set to generate 10 lines and then exit. If you run it and it runs for a long time and doesn't exit, you can see, if you look real quick here, whenever I run this, it will say, press generating sets, press A to abort. So anytime that this seems to like be stuck in a loop, just what that means is that there's actually not 10 lines within the entire matrix that meet this. There may only be 3, 4, something like that. But anyway, if it doesn't if it seems to be stuck in a loop, just press A. It'll cancel this run, and then you can just use whatever sets is in there. Now, it generated 10 lines here, and we were looking for a 571, which it may or may not be in there. Some games using the random. The reason I added this was that you can completely bypass the H code tool and the hybrid and run this without just strictly by setting these values. Let's say that because anytime you play like that, the zeros are pretty easy to hit. You could come through and try to set a bunch of these, and then you can use the random. Now, anytime you do the random, it will erase any sets that were in here and then generate completely new. So let's view those now, and again, we're looking for the 571, and we can see that right there it is. So, if you can set enough of those values and use the random option, you can still, hit the pick 3 straight, usually in 10 lines or less. But like I said, it requires, setting almost all of them. I don't know if, let me just redo this here. Okay, it was able to draw 10 lines. Let's view those. We're looking for 571, and we can see there again it hit. So that's just a second option for maybe someday you can't come up with a good H code. You can come into this program, analyze this data, set it up, using all the values and run it, and then possibly you could hit the the straight. That's kind of iffy because there could be 15 total lines in the matrix that meet this, but you're only generating 10 of them, and so you could it could have the 10 in there and not the winning set. But anyway, that's an option that's there. Okay, with that being said, I think I've covered just about everything. Again, I really think that because our overall odds of hitting a straight here within the lines generated is 1 in 64. But with some careful analysis, you can, maybe, come up with the correct H code and, win some money. But anyway, I guess only time will tell. I'm not really making any claims as to, if this is a super, way to pick your numbers or not. It all depends upon your analysis. Either you can, use the tools provided, come up with, the correct value. The idea of adding the RSPN was, usually when you set an H code, you get 16 lines. You may be able to filter those down, save them, and then use another H code, filter those down. It all just depends on what your play budget is. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you win big.